afternoon, everybody. Facebook world. Y'all already know who this is. Trevor Williams, Vice President of Credit 360 Credit Repair. Along here with
Andre Coakley, President of Credit 360.
Hey, so I know it's been a while, and ultimately, our bad. We should be coming to y'all more, but we just thought it would be a great time to get this this video series going again. Fresh off of our first annual Millionaires Mindset. I just want to honestly thank everybody. You guys have no idea how hard it was to really put together this event. We had some snags that almost prohibited us from putting it on, but you know, as they say, the devil be busy.
The devil was busy, broke the AC.
But
we were able to compensate.
Well, we persevered. So as you guys can see, we have our shirts on, and if you would like a shirt, you can please hit us up. In fact, let's do this. Let us know where you're from. If you went to the workshop, please leave a comment.
I see Tambrion. All right, thanks for joining us, Tambrion. I see
Erica.
Erica. Thank you guys for joining us this weekend at the Millionaires Mindset. I hope you guys got some valuable information. We discussed a lot of things.
We discussed some great topics.
We talked about down payment assistance. What is the requirements to actually be qualified for down payment assistance down here in Miami, Florida? The average program gets anywhere between $4,000 to $7,000. However, you do have individuals, depending on where the property sits, gets access to almost $70,000 to $80,000 towards down payment assistance towards a property. So that's very good information to know.
And
right?
It's simply just going to a workshop and getting the education and learning the process.
Exactly. We also had Mark Williams.
Well, put it like this: we had professionals from the mortgage industry, the insurance industry, the real estate industry,
down payment assistance, and we also had an individual who works with Miami-Dade County to help small businesses do business with the county. What a lot of small businesses don't realize is the county does business with us. However, we need to put ourselves in position. There are processes that need to be put in place.
There's some education that needs to be absorbed before you can actually start the race, you know. And ultimately, so we had all of these professionals here, and then of course we were there to speak about credit, understanding credit from a personal standpoint, but also from a family and just a everyday facet, how credit can be implemented in everyday the workings of the everyday person's life. So we really covered a lot of great things. If you weren't able to come out, don't worry about it. We do plan on doing this event
in January.
Yes.
We're doing it in January again. We got a good response from the individuals that were there. They say this is most definitely vital information that's needed in our communities.
Yes.
So we want to just provide it. As you guys know, we want to do anything that we can to help us as a class of human beings. It's not always about the money. All right. So any event that we'll be doing along those lines will be free. All right. These are free events to help you guys out. We want to see you prosper.
All right. So that's actually, you just brought up a key word: concerning, alarming. Okay, I'm gonna tell y'all why we coming to y'all today. We were sitting in the office doing a recap of the event, our Millionaire Mindset Mastermind event. And if you would like a shirt, please again let us know. Send us a
comment.
Shirts
off for sale.
Shirts off for sale. And also, please, if you can, just to make sure, we want to make sure you guys can hear us. If we are coming through clearly, please press 1. And if we are not, please press 2.
And while you're at it, not to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Actually put what city and state you're in, all right?
Absolutely.
We want to know who's actually following us because we want to be able to provide information that's useful to the people who are following us. So if you put what city, what state you're in, that'll help us help you. Be able to provide information that's useful, because right now we're going to talk about some things that happen in Miami, but it just doesn't necessarily equate to what's happening in Miami. This is a national epidemic that we're about to discuss, right?
And especially if you are in the state of Florida, we will be covering more than likely, we will be covering your state too, or mentioning your city. And we also will be doing some comparisons to other cities across the country, maybe mentioning yours. So please tune in. And we'll compare that to what's going on here in Florida. So, without further ado,
let's talk what sparked. Okay, what really sparked this, right? We were in our Millionaires Mindset
Recap. Our
recap.
Event recap.
And we're actually just kind of going over some of the numbers and some of the metrics, right? So in our event, actually 140 people registered, right? 140 people registered.
And thank you for all the register. Thank you for, even if you registered and didn't come out, just thank you for registering.
We appreciate that. However, we need you to register the next time I need you to come out, right? There's a difference. All right? Come see us, right? We got some good information from you. However, there was 140 people registered, but only roughly about 38 people wind up attending the event. Let me back that up. 140 people registered, but only 38 attended. I'm happy with the 38 that attended. Please don't get me wrong. However, that's a very big disparity. And of the actually 38 that attended, 35 were females and only 3 were men.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
So
wait. I'm a man, so you gotta say that again.
Right. Out of all the participants, right, there were 35 women at this workshop and only 3 men attended, right?
Am I included in that 3?
No, we weren't included, but we're talking about attendees.
I was trying to fatten up the number a little bit.
However, that shows that there's a disparity with us men out here in the world, all right? This is not a live video to bash men. I'm not trying to put men on the spot.
Not at all.
However, I'm pretty sure women agree with us on this, that women want security, and security comes with having housing, having shelter,
Absolutely.
being secure in your life, right? But if only women are the ones applying for mortgages and actually buying houses, that's going to push a lot of men to the back door.
And let me say it like this: it's not like, especially in the credit repair industry, we do get a lot of men clients, and so we're not sitting here saying that men, you guys are not caring about this, but it's the difference between wanting to purchase the house and doing the financial steps in going about purchasing the house, but then also the flip side of that is understanding there's a process and also getting the education behind it. And that's what this workshop is about. It's not just about getting ultimately to the millionaire, $1 million status financially. It's about understanding the mindset and the process that goes along with it.
Exactly. And a lot of times when we see the male who is in the workshop, and again, this is not bashing. I don't want this. This is about awareness. This is the conversation that needs to be talked about, because Absolutely. If we're not talking about it at the end of the day, we're never going to make any change about it.
And we're men too. We're including this. There's no segregation here. And I don't care what your color is or your nationality or your ethnicity. If you're a man, we all together. We're talking to all of us.
Right. But if we aren't actually taking part of the process of home ownership, this is some of the reasons why we have broken families. This is some of the reasons why we're looking at kids who are suffering psychologically. They're suffering from an educational standpoint and also a financial standpoint. Think about it. If a mother or a woman were to actually acquire property and you were to actually meet this woman and you want to court her per se, but she already got her life put together, it's going to be a struggle for her to actually let you embark into her life for the simple fact that you're not bringing that security because it's already been provided for her. Now, when we talk about our grandfathers, right? And our grandmothers, grandma expected grandpa to bring home that bacon and provide shelter, right? So if we don't actually kind of have these conversations and get in track, our greater disparity amongst our families, us having legacies, us just being able to build and actually create empires for our family names and for who we are and who we want our family brands to be.
And that's what really it's about. When you're talking about leaving a mark in your community, when you're talking about going beyond your life, what will your life mean when you're gone? It's ultimately what you're doing in your community, neighborhoods where 25 houses on the street and 2/3 of the houses have been on, the families have been in those houses for 20 years. So ultimately, when you're in an environment like that, you sleep better at night. If I leave my car door open or if I leave my front door open, I have neighbors or I have security around me. So ultimately, all of these things, like Andre said, plays a part in, the child's growth, the stability, the even your personal well-being, even your personal mindset.
I agree. And unfortunately, the statistics state that African Americans are twice as likely to be denied for a mortgage than any other ethnicity. Or let me state that. Let me be specific, right? Because I know some of y'all are listening, right? It says African Americans are twice as likely to be denied for mortgages than non-Hispanic whites. Okay?
Oh, you say that again. Say that again.
African Americans, right, are twice as likely to be denied for a mortgage than non-Hispanic whites. That means at the end of the day is we're being denied twice as much as them. All right? And a lot of that is not just because of financial situations. It's not necessarily because of skin color. A lot of times it's because of lack of process and lack of education. All right? So that's what we want to do. When I provide free workshops and we give our time to you guys, it's because at the end of the day, we want you to understand the process, and the process doesn't also always need to be paid for.
Absolutely. Some process you just can't throw money at.
All right.
You know, at the end of the day, some processes it's literally you have to go through the process, and in order to understand it, you got to go through it. And I'm glad that you actually mentioned that, because you actually touched on something from a federal standpoint. Let's look at those numbers from an African American standpoint as it relates to just the Miami-Dade County area, the numbers that we ran across.
Right. So what we're looking at, right? This is a study from the Miami Herald, right? I like to let y'all know I ain't just talking off the top of my head here, right? This is the Miami Herald. Right?
Y'all can see that.
All right. So it says Miami has the most mortgage denials than any other city in the U.S. All right.
That's city. We're not even talking about persons, a group of people.
Right.
We're just
talking
talking about
Miami
the city.
in general. This has nothing to do with ethnicity. This is talking about Hispanic, white, African American.
If you live
Chinese.
in the city of Miami-Dade, we talking about you.
All right. So we are amongst some of the highest denials in the nation, right? So what does that tell us? Number one, that means that the funnel to get into homeownership is very fickle and very thin, right? That means that if you don't have your I's dotted and your T's crossed, you're probably not going to get into that category.
Already, because of the fact you live in Miami-Dade.
Right. And one of the main reasons is because of the pricing of housing, all right? So let me read this other statistic, right? It says Miami has been ranked one of the worst cities in the U.S. in terms of cost burden renters or households spending more than 30% of their income on rent, right? So this is what I like to call the DTR, debt to rent ratio, right? With the debt to rent ratio, unfortunately, is if you're paying so much for housing, that leaves so much disparity in the rest of your life, right? All right. Think about it. If 1/3 of your income is just going towards housing, that's a very, 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 very tight budget there, right? So we also want to always just make sure that we are actually putting ourselves in position to have affordability, right? Affordability is a big issue, all right? The other thing with this, right? So there's a two side to this. Miami ranks top in two categories. The second category is mortgage declines. So not only are we actually at the top of the category with some of the highest cost renting situations, we're also in the worst category when it comes to actually being able to purchase properties, all right? Why is that? Number one, the price of housing is very high, whether you're trying to purchase. As we've noticed in today's time, it's normally taking two incomes to actually qualify for a mortgage. So we have clients who are making $70,000, right, as an individual, which is a decent paying job. However, their debt to income ratio still won't allow them, or their affordability factor still won't allow them to actually afford the neighborhoods that they want to be in for what they call safe harbor for their kids. Right.
And ultimately, especially when you're talking about kids, neighborhood means everything from school, from safety. Everything is predicated on that. Also, let's look at this. This is one that really kind of that caught my attention. Lack of collateral, meaning the lender's appraisal of the property is lower than the asking price, accounts for nearly 23% of declines.
Right. So what does that tell us? Property owners are asking more for properties than what they're worth, right? And that actually, so not only do you have to qualify as an individual, that mortgage company or that lender has to make sure that property qualifies, right? So it's a two-pronged process. They just don't want you to see how your credit standpoint is, because at the end of the day, they want to make sure their collateral is going to withstand or actually be at a certain value, because at the end of the day, they're handing you dollar signs for that particular property or that particular collateral.
And especially here in Miami-Dade, when the cost of living continues to rise and incomes are steadily, flatlining, or even in some cases decreasing, that in itself is an added burden to the whole process. So
yeah. So and I see thank you, Shamus. I see your comment on here. She put $70,000 is decent. Question mark, question mark, question mark. Well, I must be living in poverty, right? All right. However, the average price of value around here in Miami can go anywhere roughly between $230,000 to possibly $250,000, depending on which neighborhood, decent neighborhoods. All right. So it's not, it's not cheap. It's a pretty penny to actually, own property down here. So it can most definitely actually throw you off if you don't have your debt ratio in line, if you don't have your credit in line, of course. And we know credit attributes to nearly, what's the fact here?
Was it 23%?
23%. So from a national standpoint, so this is from a national standpoint, right? From a national standpoint, debt ratio or not being affordability equated to 33% of denials. But bad credit history was the second most impactful national scale, claiming 23% of denials. So roughly about 1/4 of every individual is actually being denied strictly for credit purposes.
Not your income, how much money you make, or anything like that. Simply, you haven't invested in your credit, or you haven't taken the time to get the proper education on how to use or build your credit before purchasing your home.
Yeah. 6 years ago during the recession, just to put y'all out there, I was probably over a few $100,000 in debt, right? In debt, negative debt, because the actual recession hit. I had properties that were in foreclosure. I couldn't afford to pay credit card debt, loans, so on. However, as of today, I'm a few $100,000 ahead of the game in credit, right? So it's a process. Did it happen overnight? No. But what I have done is I took the steps necessary to actually go from point A to point B, which anybody can do it. I've done it myself, and that's one of the reasons why I opened up a company, because at the end of the day, hey, I'm a walking example of somebody who was hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt to the point of right now I only got $2,000 worth of debt, right? I don't really believe in debt. I believe in credit. That's one of the things we talk about, at a constantly here at Credit 360. Debt is good. Excuse me, let me back up. Hold on. Let me back up. Credit is good. Debt is bad, all right? There's nothing wrong with having credit. There's nothing wrong with you guys having access to credit cards. However, be careful with getting loans, all right? A loan is a little bit different than credit. A loan is actually giving access to money. And if you don't have a vehicle, or you don't have that money earmarked, or you don't have any purpose for it, it can be wound up being something detrimental for your credit profile.
All right. Well, we've been discussing Miami a little bit, but I just want to kind of point out right now how systemic this issue is in Florida. Now, we've been talking about Miami-Dade, and that Miami-Dade is tops as it relates to the epidemic of denials. Okay, but let's take a look at the top 4 slots in this whole issue. Now, this is a national poll, right? But from a standpoint of this poll, you would almost
the top 50 cities, right?
Top 50 cities. You would almost think this is exclusively Florida, because the top 5 cities beyond Miami-Dade, we're talking about. Well, now Miami-Dade. I'm sorry, Miami-Dade was 17.4% denials. Second in the country, Orlando at 11%. So just up 95.
Yeah, 2.5 hours north of here.
Okay,
right.
They're experiencing the same thing, 11%. But you say, okay, well, that's Orlando, Miami, though. The 2 bigger cities in Florida. I can see that. Third on the list is Tampa. Now, we haven't even talked about New York. We haven't even talked about California. We're still in Florida. Top 3 cities, Miami, Orlando, Tampa, and 4th on the list,
Jacksonville. All right.
Jacksonville. So this is not, again, I'm not We're not picking at anyone. We're not trying to dump on the state of Florida because we love the state of Florida. We're Florida boys ourselves. But ultimately, understand this is a systemic issue as it relates to the state of Florida. So the reason why we're saying this, we have to be cognizant of education and the process of purchasing homes. If we're going to be serious about this process, if you want to just get in your property, that's one thing. If you want to stay in your property and be able to thrive and grow financially because of that property, it's about getting the education and understanding the process. So that's what we're here for.
And let me back up a little bit. All right. So when I graduated from college, I worked with my father as a mortgage broker, as a loan processor.
Bottom up.
All right. I was a loan processor back then, and I got to see the trends of what individuals were doing to actually purchase a house. I purchased my first house at the age of 25. It was a $130,000 house. For those of y'all who from Miami, it was in Lakes by the Bay, a 2-story house. In 4 years, the property of that value went up to $210,000, right? What I was able to do was I was able to get a line of credit, or what we used to call a HELOC, a home equity line of credit on my property, which is like a line of credit or a big credit card for $80,000. So they gave me a credit card for $80,000 or a line of credit for $80,000. During that time, I'm going to be honest with you. There's 2 things that I had on my mind I wanted to actually buy. A Banshee and 2 jet skis, right? I'm not going to lie to you.
It's honest.
I want to buy a Banshee and 2 jet skis with that $80,000. However, I said, you know what? Let me put this money into something that can possibly make me money. And what did I do? I opened up a mortgage company. Now, I opened up my mortgage company in 2006, Absolute Mortgage. And actually, I'm in the same office that I opened up my mortgage company in back in 2006, and we're now in 2019. I've been in the same location for 13 years, right? So, however, what I'm trying to tell you is me having home ownership gave me a seed to being a business owner. I can guarantee you right now, if I didn't get that home equity line of credit, you wouldn't be seeing me live right now in this office space, right? Because this office space was built out, all right? All these walls, see this knockdown, you see all this? All this trimming, all that was part of that equity line of credit, right?
This was a old rim shop, right? This is a warehouse.
This was a warehouse. It was a warehouse. So I took a warehouse and I flipped it into an office, right? However, it wasn't a cheap build out. Hell, to be honest with you, I didn't even know what I was doing. All right? It was my first time being the owner of a business. And it was my first time even managing people. All right? However, look where we are. 14 years later, I'm still here. However, and the house, just even the house that I took the equity line of credit on was one of the things that I got foreclosed on, right? So, can you see how this goes, right? So, in essence, I want you to actually leverage your legacy, all right? A lot of times, you're not gonna have a son who makes it to the NFL. You're not gonna hit lotto, right? Yeah. You're not gonna slip and fall at Walmart, right? So, these are some of the things that we kind of look forward to say that we're going to be able to buy back the block, right? So I heard a gentleman the other day, he's talking about buying back the block. He's saying he wanted to come to our workshop to buy back the block, right? I'm like, well, what does buy back the block? He said, so I can get enough money to buy my block, right? Buying back the block is a very good term. However, it's a process, right? I have millionaire friends who are in the NFL, who money will probably never be an issue as far as what they cut a check for. I'm talking about millions of dollars. I'm not talking about 10 million, 30, 40, 50 million dollars. And some of those gentlemen are right now struggling day to day. And it wasn't because they didn't get access to the money. It's because they weren't educated with the process of how to handle the money. Let me just back that up a little bit. All right? Because a lot of times we think money solves issues. Actually, money actually puts more people in your pocket. All right? Because now when you get a financial investor, I'll get a financial investor. Well, who's watching your financial investor? Right? So it's layers of defense when you start getting money. What I'm trying to say is it's a process, all right? Not just having access to wealth doesn't help you understand the process. It doesn't keep wealth. It's not wealth retention, all right? So,
because think about it. If you want to be any type of professional, I don't care what the profession is, before you step out on the playing field, actually go do the job, there is a process first. The first part of the process is registering for class. You know what I'm saying? Then once you register for class, now you got to go get your books.
Right.
Once you get your books, then you begin the education, the study. So even before you get the education, you got to start on the road for the process first. Without taking anything for granted, most people that are the most successful are the people that really embrace process. The people that understand that you don't lose all the weight at one night, in one day, in one workout. You don't make all the money in one investment. You don't find a cure for cancer with one research. Ultimately, every part of the process gets you one step closer. But at the end of the day, you can't count the steps, and that's the best thing that I guess you could say. You can't really count the steps. You just have to understand you have to go through the process, no matter how many steps it is.
I like that. You can't count the steps, and a lot of times that's what we do. We get so focused on the finish line versus getting through the stages of the race. Versus and understanding okay, what type of endurance it takes during what stage.
And that's a good analogy when you think of like the Tour de France. I think you have like 21 stages. You may win the race and may not ever win a stage.
Exactly.
You understand? But at the end of the day, if you continue on the process, if you continue to go through the stages, ultimately at the end of the day, you'll win the race at your time.
I like that. So I hope you guys got some valuable information. If you got some valuable information, just put the number 1 if you don't mind. We just want to see some ones up there. Or if you have any questions, ask your question. All right. We want to make sure that we answer any questions that you have. We're going to actually be on for a few more minutes. If you guys have questions, if not, we'll be signing off.
Oh, and just to now, because I don't want to make it seem like we just bashing Dade County. There's a lot of wonderful things about Miami-Dade. Right now, we're probably at about 78 degrees temperature outside. And we are late October. I mean, how many places in the country you can actually get experiences, weather like this? We're surrounded by water, peaceful tranquility, great food, so many diverse cultures. So there's so many things to love and experience. And even as it relates to home ownership and property, yes, the cost of living is high, but at the end of the day, with partnership. And with organization.
Partnership.
All
right. Why he said partnership? I just thought someone he said partnership.
Partnership.
All right. So let's say you're having problems qualifying for a property or even buying a property, right?
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
Why wouldn't you actually come up with a home buyers club, right? A home buyers club. Let's say, for example, I want to buy a $300,000 property, or let's say me and my friends, me and Trevor and let's say me and Trevor and 4 of our other friends, we want to buy a $300,000 property, right? Why wouldn't we take the process, right, to sit down and get our credit right? Collectively. I'm talking about you guys sit down and help each other repair your credit. Now, I repair credit as a company. However, you can still repair your credit and work on things as individual items that you guys know to work on. So you build a home buyers club with 6 people. You guys make a charge or request to at least acquire $10,000 worth of credit from each one of you guys, right? Once each one of the 6 of you guys get $10,000, now you have access to $60,000 worth of liquid money.
So that means each person coming up with $10,000 accumulated in credit, whether you have it all on one credit card or you have a series of credit cards, but accumulating roughly $10,000
a piece. Now you have $60,000. Now you have $60,000. Do you know now you have 20% down to put on that $300,000 property? Which now most definitely helps your odds with qualifying, because now you're actually you got more skin in the game, you got more down payment involved. And secondly, it allows you to possibly even put that team together. Let's say 3 or 4 members of the team they're good wage earners, they have a W-2 job, or they're even self-employed and have, decent tax returns showing that they have viable income.
Right.
Why wouldn't you guys group together, buy that property? If it's a flip, why not put the money into it to flip it, sell the property, everybody gets their $10,000 back, plus whatever proceeds or you guys can take whatever proceeds and dump that into the next property. They don't hear me.
They don't hear you, but when they rewind, because I know they're going to watch this again. I know they're going to watch this again.
Okay.
And when they watch it again and they rewind, they see it, oh man, they're going to take notes. I promise you.
So a home buyer club, get your friends together, sit down, talk about finances, talk about some of the things that aren't being discussed on an everyday basis. A lot of times when it comes to talking about our credit score or how much money we make, that's the equivalent to almost going to the doctor, right? I always use the example, I have a male doctor, right? I had to get undressed in front of another male, right? That's not comfortable. I hate it, to be quite honest with you. However, it was necessary in order for me to be diagnosed, right? So sometimes we have to unveil, right? We got to take the mask off, all right? The mask is only for the physical. It doesn't actually feel good internally, right?
And just to kind of just piggyback off of the last point, understand, especially we see it all the time here in Dade County with so many immigrants coming in. When they get here, they can't afford to purchase a property by themselves. So what they do is they'll have 5, 6, 7, 8 family members. Everyone's working. Everybody's pulling together. They'll purchase a property, live in it for a few years, and like you said, they'll sell the property. Everybody takes a piece of the equity or the investment, and now everyone can go their separate ways with a tangible tangible return to go and move on to the next phases of life. So it is done all the time. You just have to be willing to, kind of.
Right. So even on that, we had a family, all right, who was a client of ours. It was 6 individuals. 6 individuals. 4 of them went on a mortgage, right? And they bought a $700,000 property. Now, individually, they could not afford where they wanted to be at. However, they took their family, right? 4 individuals. You got brother, sister, mother, father, and some kids, right? They all actually put in and went in on the mortgage, and now they're living in the $700,000 house. All of them have their own pretty much, quarters. It's a nicely laid out house for their actual family size. So they were able to make it work. But most of us, y'all know what I mean when I say us, all right? That's us, right? We couldn't do that, right? Because there's so much ego, there's so much torment, there's a lot of frustration put into our families and put into our households that we couldn't even actually fathom to possibly live with grandma. Well, don't get me wrong, and that's just not an us thing, right? Sometimes you just can't live with mom or dad, right? I'm not promoting staying with mom or dad. However, with certain lifestyle, so they had a certain lifestyle they wanted to obtain. However, they were able to obtain that lifestyle by them actually working cohesively and collaborating to actually create home ownership.
And see, I'm glad that you brought up unity and cohesion. Like ultimately, this is why. Like going back years ago when we were kids, that's why the I guess you could say the family structure in a sense, it allowed families to grow. That's why in a sense you had the prosperity that you had, because in a sense you had more families together. You had people sticking together, two incomes better than one, which allows you to go further. And today's time, I guess we've gotten to this habit of me first, only me. I don't want anybody in my business. I can't allow anybody to see me financially undressed. All of these, things, all of these concerns, all of these masks these walls that we put up, and ultimately, we're only holding ourselves back because we miss the opportunity to really grow when there is community, when there is unity, when there is, togetherness, when there's family.
Yeah. Somebody got to be the spinal cord, right? Somebody got to hold it together. Why shouldn't that be you? Why are you letting other people or other people or other entities or other individuals kind of, cater and curtail your life until the direction where you don't want it to go? And that's mainly because of lack of education, and egos, and as we started with this whole conversation, self-empowerment. But this is one of the reasons why we have broken families. But at the end of the day,
I mean, we saw it in the workshop. We saw individuals there, and I saw people with wedding bands on, but there was only one party representing the family.
Right.
And at the end of the day, this is when you're talking about a 30-year investment, when you're talking about starting a business as a family, something that can go on for the next 30 years. Ultimately, parties have to be in step throughout the process. Back to process and education. The education, both parties want to be in committed and enveloped in the process and the education, because ultimately, if one party kind of falls or something, whatever the case may be, they're struggling. The other party can keep it going because they've been in the loop the entire time. They know the process. There is no learning curve that they have to experience.
I think we hit the nail on the head. So if you guys felt that you got value out of this, what we ask you to do is again, just put a comment below, thank you, or something that we need to touch on for future topics. However, if you did also feel this is valuable, please share.
Please.
All right, share it. Hit that share button for us. All right? Hit that share button for us. We're pouring something in you. I just asked you to pour something back in us. Just hit that share button for us.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's what I was going to say. Leave a comment encouraging us. Like I said, it's been a while that we've come to you guys, and I will be honest, a lot of it is just, sometimes it's just, I don't want to say discouraged, but not sure if you should or doubt, I guess you can say, whatever the case may be. But sometimes you just gotta forget about that. You gotta close your eyes and jump in the water, as they say.
Exactly. Well, we appreciate you guys once again. We thank everybody who was part of the Millionaires Mindset this past weekend.
Get your shirt. Y'all gonna see me with mine.
Stay looking forward. In January, we'll be actually having another workshop. We're actually going to kind of change it up a little bit, give you some new topics. And this is something I plan to do quarterly. However, I can't do it quarterly if I don't have you guys' support, right? It's I'm thankful that I have 40 participants.
Yes.
But it's frustrating when I have 140 registered, but only 40 show up. And 3 of them are men.
And there was no rain. There was no snow. We didn't have no hurricanes. There was no hurricane warners. There was no earthquakes. There was no traffic jams. Nothing.
All right.
Okay. And then also, listen, we're in the South Day area. This event was held down in the South Day area. We always hear nobody does nothing. Nobody does nothing educational down that area. Every time I want to learn something, I gotta travel. We had this event right in your backyard, South Day. We need more participation now. Come on now. How many of y'all stop us at the grocery store wanting to ask us credit questions? Huh? We can't even go out on a date and we get bombarded with credit questions. Seriously. But then we have this free event for the community, and all we ask you to do is come out for 4 hours. We didn't even keep y'all all day, just 4 hours.
And we fed you. And made sure you was good and satisfied. All right, so January, the date is be coming soon, so y'all got to keep tuning in for it, right? Tune in, Millionaires Mindset. We'll see you guys in January. We love you. If there's anything you guys need, feel free to inbox us. You can find us at Credit360. .biz, or just go ahead and find us on Facebook, Credit 360 Credit Repair. Like us, share us, just give us some of the love that we give you guys.
Or you can find us on IG at Credit 360.
All right, love y'all. Peace.